Welcome one and all to Wednesday. Wait, it's Wednesday. That means it's... Okay, sound or no, it is Big News Wednesday, Jayar. Hopefully they're hearing these videos because we're not yet. We're gonna get that resolved, but you are here and that's what's important.
No, I'm just joking.
I know. I knew you were gonna do that, by the way. I knew it. I would have bet every dollar I have. Anyway, we're glad to have you here, you bastard.
It's hey, bro, get into the holiday spirit. I mean, we got to get more happiness, more joy, more giving amongst each other. I'm there. It's absolutely December. It's December now. You got to get into the spirit of all the holidays that fall in this month.
Speaking of giving, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was a lot of cooking, which is exactly what I planned. So yeah, it went well. It was perfectly normal. Football was on in the background. It's what it's supposed to be, you know. A little bit of here, a little bit of food there. Ate too much. Ate the same thing for the past 5 days. So I think it's starting to go bad in the fridge.
Yeah. The only difference is I didn't have football in the background. I had the Wheel of Time, some Thanksgiving movies, Hawkeye, stuff like that in the background. Really. Yeah. A lot of Cutthroat Kitchen, a show that I hadn't seen before and find oddly compelling. Actually, that's a good show. But anyway,
it's another one of those that likes to sabotage people that like to cook. As if you go into a kitchen and really make something with gummy bears and chicken. Come on, bro.
It's pretty good. I thought it was good. Anyway, you know what? You said we're gonna have happy, good holiday times, and now you're right with the salt.
You're right.
Anyway. Thank you all for being here, though. It is indeed Big News Wednesday. We do have a lot of news to talk about, and we will get into that in just 1 minute. But before we do that, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing the stream, that would be a delight. And you can send us messages, tweets, comments, and all of that. And we will respond to those as we go. Do we have any heads up from Sophie? Will we hear the videos? Okay, well, that's gonna be rough. Jayar, prepare to come up with stuff. Anyway, with that though, let's try this thing. Let's talk about some news. Let's jump into this video.
One of my staffers on his first day with me got into an elevator in the Capitol. And in that elevator, we were joined by Ilhan Omar. Press the emergency Well, it was just us three in there, and I looked over and I said, well, look at there, it's the Jihad Squad. Yeah. She wasn't dropping and running, so we're good.
Okay, so bad news, we couldn't hear the video. Good news, you guys could hear the video. Good news number two, it had captions. But just for Jayar's sake, you do lose something from just the caption. So I need you to understand that not only in that video was that another time that Lauren Boebert has told the supposed story of her mocking Ilhan Omar as a suicide bomber, but all the details were different. So she's just making this up every time she says it. But you need to understand that she delivers it as, and so I looked at her and I said, hey, Jihad Squad, and everyone in the room, I don't understand how some people choose to live their life. The delivery of the story was horrible. She has no charisma whatsoever. The message she's delivering is abhorrent, and she's also playing them because she's just making this up. That was terrible in every way that a story could be terrible. Personally, in terms of delivery, she is just an awful human being.
This is the thing, whenever punchlines come by, but I had seen it before, so I know exactly how she sounded, exactly what she did. So this is the thing. When you're telling, we have this whole debate over jokes and comedians and who can tell jokes and who can't and which one's offensive and what's not. And there's the line of like funny, right? The other part is when you don't have to be funny is when you're telling just jokes that are at the expense of other people that you hate. So the punchline is, because she's a Muslim.
Yeah,
that's not a punchline. That's just hate, bigotry, and racism. That's all that is. That has nothing to do with a roundabout way to you could even tell a bigoted joke in a better way, but she chooses not to because why try? The punchline is the bigotry. You don't have to worry about how you say it. And number two, I think, as you point out, this is from back in September. So this is an ongoing, regular thing that she does. This isn't oh, I heard this one story and then I like to tell it. No, I like to tell this fake story over and over again with different angles and audience members cackling about it. That's all this is. It's a campaign thing.
Pathetic. And like, if you were, I don't think that a single person who was in any of either of these two audiences that we've seen, or God knows how many other times she's told this exact same story minus the details changing, none of them will be offended, but they should be, because she came up with this story, this lie, which says something about her, but it also says something about what she thinks about you. Like that this is what she comes and delivers. It's not, again, I feel like a broken record. It's not about your problems or how she's gonna fix them. It's about the biases and bigotries that she thinks you have, and then you prove that you have them by laughing at her inane story.
Yep.
By the way, at the same event, in this case, she said, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, these are just black-hearted evil women. Just total coincidence that she chose two women of color in Congress to describe as black-hearted.
Coincidence, John.
By the way, you are the one that is going around to tons of events telling stories mocking someone's religion and saying that makes them a terrorist. They're the evil women. They're evil. This is what you are doing. You know, I'm not a Christian. I'm gonna be completely honest. I love any Christian watching this. I think it's as made up as every other religion. That said, I don't feel like any of this is consistent with what they say they're gonna be like when they become Christians. Is this a what would Jesus do thing? Oh, Jesus would go to like cocktail parties and he'd mock other religions as being terrorists. That's what he would do. No, you're just a terrible person. No, but I wouldn't want to talk to you at a party. I wouldn't want to have to ride an elevator with you. Like if there's supposed to be any benefit from religion, it is supposed to be trying to teach you to be a better person. That's what all of them do. Why did it fail so wholly when it comes to people like Boebert and Green and Gates and Gosar and all of them?
Sadly,
I don't know. Maybe they need more religion because the amount they have isn't doing it.
Yeah, sadly, it's set up by the way that we allow religion, specifically Christianity in this country, to just flow freely. You know, tax-free things. You get to preach your sermons. You get to have your congregations and then collect money so you can continue to help the community, which is the original thought about this whole thing, or fund the church and then help the people that attend the church. But since that became such a good money grab, people that have nothing to do with the religion or nothing to do with the belief system took it over. I mean, at least as far as the leadership groups in many of these churches. So they're like, oh man, this is a perfect scenario. The country allows me to just do this wholeheartedly and freely without any taxing. So why wouldn't I do this? And then of course, grifters and people who want to make more money off of other people's backs, they take this as a perfect opportunity. It has nothing to do with Christianity. And the people who do believe many times get duped into thinking these folks believe the same thing that they do.
Yeah. In any event, Ilhan Omar did respond to this new version of this, tweeting, "The evolution of this dangerous tale is frightening. Trying to come up with the most bigoted ways to traffic Islamophobic tropes is the brand of the Republican Party. It should be clear by now that there needs to be real consequence for this hateful anti-Muslim rhetoric. Enough." Is it enough? I don't know. House leadership say that they're considering whether to take action against her. Yeah. Maybe they will. They eventually did against Gosar. That's true. But Lauren Boebert she's not backing down. Like she went on Laura Ingraham last night to say, I didn't apologize to placate Ilhan Omar or whatever. Okay, well, so but again, you are I'm not claiming that there's some sort of divine thing that I'm a part of. You are doing that. You are saying that you are a conservative Christian. Aren't they supposed to be all about forgiveness and confessing your sins and all of that? She says they don't want an apology. They don't want public humiliation. Yes, forget about them. You were wrong. You know that what you did was wrong. You as a Christian are supposed to seek forgiveness by confessing your sins. You're supposed to, like, whatever she wants, who cares? You're not supposed to be answering her. You're supposed to be answering to all those people up there, right? Well, then you should be wanting to apologize regardless of what they want, but you don't want to, because despite the fact that on some level you know that what you're saying is absolutely abhorrent and is in no way grounded in Christianity, the behavioral precepts that you're supposed to have from that, you don't care about that. You care about looking cool and having lizard brains laugh at your little stupid story. That's what you want.
This is the thing. So people that have experienced social privilege their whole lives like this, they're the types that once they have to actually own up, it's ironic because they talk about personal responsibility and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. None of the things which they're willing to do themselves because they never had to. So when you've had to experience social privilege your whole life and you finally have to say something or own up to the things you've done, it's now becomes what's the term she used? It's now they wanna make us look like we're sacrificing ourselves in front or embarrassing in front of publicly, because it's embarrassing and sacrificing in order to say publicly that you were wrong, or to say that my belief system might be off and I may have to do some work on myself. I may have to advance myself. I may have to make myself be a better person. All those things, they're embarrassing and sacrificial for people like her. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that say more about her character and her personality than anyone else? It's embarrassing to come out and say you were wrong. Come on, bro.
Sacrifice
and you follow
is
that.
Like the core of their religion, but that's for other people. That's for Jesus' people. That's not for them, apparently. Anyway, let's turn to an even darker angle on this. Let's jump directly into this video.
I'm going to play you a voicemail that we received hours after I got off the phone with Representative Boebert after she posted her video.
We see you, we know what you're up to. You're all about taking over the country. Don't worry, there's plenty that will love the opportunity to take you off the face of come get jihadist. We know what you are. You're a leader. You will not live much longer, bitch. I can almost guarantee you that we the people are rising up and you will be tried for a military tribunal. And you will be found guilty.
So within just a couple of hours of Lauren Boebert putting up her, I was gonna use a lot of terms to describe it. I'm just gonna say the video that she put up on Instagram. You can fill in for yourself what sort of video it was. More death threats started coming through to Ilhan Omar. Now, look, let's keep it real. Representative Omar's office is no stranger to death threats. They get them constantly because of people like Lauren Boebert and people on Fox News and Marjorie Greene and all that. That guy, whether he actually ever picks up a gun and tries to assassinate this representative, is desperate for it to happen. And you better believe that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of conservative Republicans that would love to see it happen. And Lauren Boebert knows that that exists. She's playing with that. She's going around and selling herself off of Islamophobia. That's all that she knows she has. And so she's doing it. And if it leads to more death threats, more normalization of desiring the blood of your political opponents, she doesn't care about that.
That's, again, this is the thing. Everyone, when it comes to politicians, I've said this many times, and everyone knows this, not like something I said. Their job is to get reelected. So that's why many of them sell out. That's why many of them have to just go towards the donors because they have the most money. And therefore they sacrifice all of their belief systems and everything they would do for the sake of staying in office. That's why every time there's an election, it's over. The next thing we talk about is not what they're gonna do. We talk about that maybe for a week after they get elected. After that is, what about the next election? And now the midterms, and now the next presidential election, and then the next midterms. There's never a time when they're actually legislating. So many of them sell out for corporations, like I was saying. But people like her realize that her money making is bigotry and hatred. So that's all she's got. So maybe others may go to some like coal mining thing and do a photo op there and tell the corporation there, hey, I'll give you anything you want, just give me more money. And that's bad enough. She goes to the most bigoted and racist corners of the country and says, hey, I'm that racist, I'm that Islamophobe, I'm that person that's gonna incite you to violence. And maybe you should kill my political enemies because that's how I get back into office. Her generating energy is to get back into office, but that's racist energy. And that's what she's tapped into after she saw Donald Trump really expose just how many of those people that there are in this country.
Yeah, you have Donald Trump on the political side, and people like Tucker Carlson on the media side have shown that whatever sort of legacy prohibition we had against like the most obvious xenophobia and hatred and threats and all of that might have existed at one point is gone. And honestly, while like them hating and fearing Muslims specifically or anyone who's not like descendant from people on the Mayflower isn't new. None of that is new. Like in the wake of 9/11, there was a horrible amount of Islamophobia. Like from the most official angles, you didn't see that. Like Bush did horrible things, but at least in his speeches, he tried to pretend that wasn't what he was doing. That this isn't true Islam or whatever, and then he'd go and kill hundreds of thousands of people or whatever. And they weren't actively saying stuff like this in the media. So I don't know, like to some extent, some of you might say, well, at least they're more honest about what they believe. Sure, but they're also more transparent about it, and that does seem to be inspiring a lot more people to glom onto it. The popular movement they represent this is what it is, and they can do that because people like Lauren Boebert are representing the people they care about. The people they care about are millionaires and billionaires. They have no problems. Nothing needs to be fixed. So they can just waste your time co-opting people's minds with this sort of hate-filled nonsense.
So what is it that's gonna happen? I'm sorry, what is gonna happen if someone does make some attempts on Congress people's lives now?
They did on the 6th. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, but directly and openly and then catching it, because you're gonna talk about what AOC was saying about how this affects people. What are they gonna do then? What's left? Is it gonna cheer more cheering?
If let's say someone gets let's say Kyle Rittenhouse picks up his new AR-15 that they're gonna buy from him, and he goes to Congress and he kills Ilhan Omar and he kills Rashida Tlaib and he kills Cori Bush. What do you like? You think that night Tucker Carlson's to be like, oh no. What have we done? We've gone too far. I never meant for it to. Oh my God, our movement did no. We're gonna go through 6 months of it was probably Antifa, or I don't know, maybe it was the FBI did it. It's really nothing, or they literally just won't talk about it. They're not the story we're gonna be talking about Trump later on. They just don't cover this stuff. They're just not interested in it. Nothing would be learned.
Ironically, the evil that they're pushing lives in the darkness, which is exactly what she talked about when it comes to Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. The evil dark-heartedness. This is why you don't talk about it in these other circles. This is why conservative media won't talk about it. Because if you talk about it, same thing why they don't want to talk about our history. If you talk about it, people might have maybe some critical thinking on it and go, yeah, these are bad guys. These were the bad guys. This is what we shouldn't redo, and this is who we shouldn't follow. They can't have that because then those are the people that are representing their trust and their beliefs.
Yesterday, Ilhan Omar did a Twitter Spaces, and I logged into it. I listened for quite a while, and she just went through a bunch of the stuff that was in or stuff that might be taken out of the infrastructure bill. That's what she does. Lauren Boebert tells made-up jokes about how she insulted a woman in an elevator and mocked her religion. It's not the same thing. Anyway, AOC tweeted about this death threat. She said, people truly don't understand the scale, intensity, and volume of threats targeting Ilhan Omar. Kevin McCarthy is so desperate to be speaker that he's working with his Ku Klux Klan caucus to look aside and allow violent targeting of women of color members of Congress. This cannot be ignored. It's not just about nasty phone calls and emails. GOP are given freedom to incite without consequence. They don't have to pay for the security required from their acts. We do. They make money off it. They are targeting those least likely to be institutionally protected first. I'm not on Lauren Boebert's like email list or whatever. I'm not on really any of theirs, even though I get emails from Nancy Pelosi constantly. Never signed up for that. I think that should be pretty clear. Guarantee that she is fundraising off of this, and Marjorie Greene is fundraising off of this, and all of them will. If she gets censured, she will fundraise even more. They have a direct financial incentive to incite violence.
When Marjorie Taylor Greene's fight with Representative Mace for the past day or two, one of the main points that even Mace bristled from, because she was barely criticizing Boebert for her words. She goes, she hasn't even been attacked by the Dems yet. And then so Mace responded, goes, no, I'm a real Republican because I got attacked by the Democrats last week. This is the basis for your legitimacy, is that you're being, have I been attacked by the Democrats yet? And by attacked by the Democrats, that means responding to the horrible things that I've said and done. That's the thing. So unless I've been talked about by the Democrats lately for horrible things I've done, I've got to go out and do horrible things so they can talk about me, and then I can fundraise off it. That's the process.
Yep. We had more videos we're gonna play of her on Laura Ingraham, and you'll note like they will literally never have Lauren Boebert on and say, hey, okay, so we're gonna have a conversation now about why what you said, making these generalized violent stereotypes about Muslims is a good thing. They will literally never do that. They have vague conversations about cancel culture. They're trying to cancel me. Okay, so what did you actually say? Is it a good thing? Do you think that we should have more elected representatives talking this way? Should this be how our government runs? They'll never have that conversation. They got to keep it vague. Anyway, we're gonna take our first break. When we come back, another story that you're not gonna see on Fox News today. Donald Trump apparently was willing to or eager to kill a whole bunch of people using his own body. So that'll be fun. We'll talk about that after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. First of all, I want to let you know that Indisputable will be coming up right after our program, as always. Dr. Rashad Ritchie will be hosting. Jackson White will be the co-host. Dave Spencer will be on for debate. So not on the same program, but it's another double Jackson TYT day. You start off with Jackson, you get a little bit more Jackson later on in different forms. Eventually, we got to have a Jackson to Jackson show.
I already called it when we did it with on the main show. I called it Jackson and Jackson, like the Johnson and Johnson. But
yeah, I like it.
We're coming up with our own vaccine.
I thought nice. Okay, well, the J&J has a few problems, so they can use that. Anyway, Starry-Eyed Dragon has been a tier 2 member for 12 months over on YouTube. Says I love you guys. Jayar, what kind of candy for the first day in December? Can I get a 1-year shout out? You guys make my day. I love you, Dragon Daddy. Hail Satan. I love when you say it, John. I don't know why they want me to constantly say Hail Satan, but okay. I don't believe in it either, so I can say whatever you want. What kind of candy? Oh, 1-year shout out.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us.
Thanks
what kind of candy for the first
You know
day?
what sucks? As I came here, I was like, I have nothing new today. It's in my head. I just had nothing new today. So December start off with a bit of a lead rock, but I do have Grinches with me though.
Oh God. Don't let Sabrina see that mug. She'd lose it. Anyway, okay, so candy-wise, I have been mad. I've actually talked on the show about the fact that there is a targeted crime against me, which is that they brought a whole big pile of candy to the studio over the past few weeks.
Oh yeah.
And yesterday I came in here and there was still, after Thanksgiving, like a bunch of little mini Snickers and stuff. I actually took a couple of them and I threw them away because I had to cut down the numbers. And then today I came into the studio feeling a little bit hungry and there were none. And I was very mad that there was no candy left. Damn it.
Somebody took care of it, good.
They did, somebody ate it. Anyway, Grandmama Hitchcock hit 9 months, says 9 months of sending a bit of cash to my favorite dragons, love y'all. Thank you so much, appreciate your support. Thank you for sticking with us for 9 months. Mass Debater joined as the first tier member. Thanks, appreciate it.
I'm not sure, yeah, well, no, I have nothing to say.
You, I think, have things to say. Grant Stanfield sent a super chat. He also sent the super chat during the pre-show. He says, remember Dragons, CSI Vegas tonight. Let's show some love to Mrs. Iadarola. My wife is appearing in an episode of CSI Vegas tonight. And Grant Stanfield is being very nice by encouraging people.
Hey, time and channel, bro, because I don't watch CSI. Is that like on ABC, CBS?
I have no idea, but we will be watching it. Okay, so in the Twitch chat, Brooke Mark says, you went through the trash. Just say it, John. No, I did not go through the trash. I took the lid off of the trash and looked into the trash, but only because they're individually wrapped and I'm the only person that uses the trash. There was nothing in there, but it had been cleared. It was gone. Get out of my brain, witch. Anyway, Gogwan Boogie hit 17 months on Twitch. Thank you very much for that. Tammy Marie hit 9 months. What's up, baby? He's finally been born. Let's see, Just Freaking Ortega says, I freaking love y'all so much. Seriously, just when I think life can hit past rock bottom, it does. And you are all always here to pick up the pieces. I seriously can't thank you enough. And I hope everyone had a great holiday and more to come, you as well. Just recently sent in some more artwork to the studio, so thank you so much. Brooke says, we got him, chat. Don't got him, don't put that emoji there. Anyway, Just Freaking Ortega also gifted a tier 1 sub. Thank you for that. Blue Tech the Belgian Dragon gifted 5. Brandy Lou too gifted 5 as well. Blue Tech gifted 5 more. Jesus, look at the ambassadorship in the chat. Anyway. Okay, I'm being told CBS 10 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you, TYT Engage. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see. I'm getting some notes last minute.
Saving John's life at home.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can do that next time. I don't think we do have videos. I can fill them in for this one anyway. Okay, so with that, why don't we? Okay, you guys can't tell what I'm responding to. I'm not crazy, I swear. Ghostwriter is in my Google Docs. So anyway, and she definitely is too young for Ghostwriter. Anyway, with that, let's move on to this next story. You will not be shocked to find out that Donald Trump, in addition to all of the horrendous things that he has done and said, also apparently knowingly in multiple instances exposed people to the COVID that he knew that he had. He apparently tested positive for COVID 3 days before his first debate against Joe Biden. That is according to his last chief of staff. So that's a new book that's coming out. Once again, you only get to find out about this stuff through a book. The fact that he knowingly stood near Joe Biden, who's 1 billion years old, and exposed him to COVID. His chief of staff is now revealing. Thank you, Meadows. I really appreciate that. Like a year later. Anyway, he says, Mark Meadows also writes that though he knew each candidate was required to test negative for the virus within 72 hours of the start time of the debate, nothing was gonna stop Trump from going out there. You know, like a sort of natural social prohibition against murder. No, not even that would stop him. Trump, Meadows says, returned a negative test from a different test shortly after the positive. So he tested positive and he tested negative. And I will ask you, by the way, we're gonna give you a little bit of a spoiler. Within about a week, he was in the hospital with COVID. So I think I know which one was accurate. If you had gotten a positive test and a negative test, how would you act? As if you were positive or as if you were negative? I think I know what every moral, decent human being in the audience would do. Unfortunately, Trump is neither of those things. So he did eventually announce that he had COVID on the 2nd of October. The White House said he announced that result within an hour of receiving it. And he went to the hospital later that day. They like carried his nearly dead corpse to the hospital there. So I announced it within an hour. You know, within an hour of 3 days later after I had found out about it, or even more. On the 26th, he tested positive. So they lied for a week. And that is bad enough to some extent. The fact that he did the thing with the debate, and we'll get to more of that. But there's actually even worse that we'll get to. I do want to let you know, Meadows was apparently surprised because he said, Trump is a massive germaphobe. How could he have gotten COVID? I mean, precautions including buckets of hand sanitizer and hardly seeing anyone who hadn't been rigorously tested. Well, I don't know, he'd spent 6 months mocking people for wearing masks and telling them they wouldn't need to take a vaccine and all that. I feel like there were a few precautions that he kind of avoided taking. In any event, we'll get to more of how awful this is, but Jayar, what do you think?
So this shows you even more. So that last quote that you from Mark Meadows, where he said it's a surprise that he even got it because of how big of a germaphobe Trump is, and there's buckets of hand sanitizer. So what does hand sanitizer do when someone's breathing at you? Not much. So it first off, it illustrates just how much maybe neither one of them understood how this works, or just didn't care, or thought that they were somehow like, they had this protection of Republicanism on them. I'm not sure what the thought process is. So when people get surprised that they got it, I'm left just as baffled as they are for their questioning it. But also number two, if he knows that he needs to keep people from him and he was trying to, or he was hand sanitizing like crazy, that means he knows once he's got it and he's spreading it around that it's very possible that he's spreading it. He just doesn't care. And neither does Mark Meadows, and neither does anyone else that knew that this was happening. So if you already know that you're a massive germaphobe and you avoid people and you try to keep people from touching you, and you start touching others, you know how it affects others, or else you wouldn't be a germaphobe in the first place. It's full knowledge of what was happening and what they could be doing to people.
Yeah, and with that full knowledge, then lying over and over and over. So let's get into some of the lies. But first of all, I gotta read this paragraph from Mark Meadows. He said his face, for the most part at least, had regained its usual light bronze hue, and the gravel in his voice was gone, but the dark circles under his eyes had deepened. That was the day of the debate. As we walked in the venue around 5 o'clock in the evening, I could tell that he was moving more slowly than usual. He walked like he was carrying a little extra weight on his back. Yes, his usual light bronze hue that he just naturally has. Is he Greek? What? They slathered makeup on his pallid worm-like body. That's what they did. But anyway, that's the least bad part of this. So the host of the debate, Chris Wallace, later said Trump was not tested before the debate because he arrived late. Organizers relied on the honor system, and never in the history of honor systems has it been a worst idea. You're gonna have Trump be governed by the honor system? Yeah, they couldn't test him because he was late, not because he knew 3 days earlier that he tested positive for COVID. So what did he do? He went there, didn't take a test because he was late. That was his design. I will be there so late that they can't test me because I know that I have COVID in my body. I'm gonna stand 15, 20 feet from Joe Biden for hours and potentially expose him to it. He could have killed Joe Biden, but I don't know. I mean, he was willing to see his vice president executed. So can we really be shocked about that? But maybe I'm wrong, Jayar. Feel free to disagree with me. I don't think that that's the worst part of this story. We're gonna now get to the worst part of the story. But first, I wanna play a video for you. And this is a video from just a few weeks after that debate. Here is something Donald Trump said in an interview with Fox.
And I have to. I'm the president of the country. I can't hang around in a basement. So I figured there would be a chance that I would catch it. Sometimes I'd be in groups of, for instance, Gold Star families. I met with Gold Star families. I didn't want to cancel that. But they all came in and they all talked about their son and daughter and father. And I can't back up, Maria, and say, give me room. I want room. Give me 12 feet. Stay 12 feet away when you talk. They come within an inch of my face sometimes. They want to hug me and they want to kiss me. And they do. And frankly, I'm not telling them to back up. I'm not doing it. But I did say it's like, it's obviously dangerous. It's a dangerous thing, I guess, if you go by the COVID thing.
Okay, so for Jayar's sake, in that video, he was talking about, I always knew I'd probably get COVID because I have to meet a lot of people, and like I met with these Gold Star families, and they're telling me all these sad stories, and they're getting close to me, and they're trying to kiss me, and what am I supposed to do? Tell them to back off. So it's very dangerous because these people get in your face, and and then I got COVID. So what are you supposed to do? If it's not clear. He had an event with the Gold Star families. These are families who he meets with because they had soldier relatives that died. He is trying to make you think that they infected him with COVID. He already knew that he had COVID, and he met with the grieving families of dead soldiers and got this close to them by his own admission. So potentially, like they may have gotten COVID, they may have gotten sick. We don't know. And he knew that he had it when he met with them. And then he goes on Fox and lies and said, I don't know, maybe they gave it to me.
Yep.
Look, I know that we don't need this story to think that he is one of the most grotesque humans in history, certainly in the history of our government. This is singularly, though, one of the most sociopathic stories I have ever covered. And you know what this job is like. You know what the US government is like. This stands out. And I went to foxnews.com this morning, nowhere.
No,
they're not even gonna mention it. So I will ask you this. If Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders or AOC had done this, do you think they would have made time to mention it? Do you think they might have covered it, Jayar?
Come on, John. No. Yes, of course. So this is the way these things work. So as you point out, the layers to how horrible of a human being he is, just there's no bottom. Every time someone goes, oh, well, he got COVID, or maybe he'll figure it out. The people who said maybe he'll realize something now that he's got it, I couldn't think of a more laughable conclusion to this series of events. If nothing else, the worst things that happen to him, the more he does horrible things. He thinks the way to get out of a bad situation is to be worse than the situation. And I guess it's worked for him. He's still around. He survived this. He survived 27 bankruptcies. He survived people that hate him. He survived businesses that absolutely sucked. He survived everything that he's done wrong in his life, and people that he's alienated and probably accidentally killed spreading COVID. He's done those things, but it means nothing to him. It's never penetrated his brain to go, maybe it's me. There's never been one moment of self-reflection in this guy's life. It's always someone else's fault. So much so to the point, I really do think he believes, yeah, those Gold Star families did it to me. He knows that's not it, but he convinced himself. This level of liar, a liar of this level, never finds themselves culpable or responsible for the things they've done. It's always someone else.
Yeah, 100%. And they won't care. Like if you found out that someone you knew in your life had done this, would you ever talk to them again? How is it that this one person can do these, like so many of these things, that if they were the only thing you knew about a person, you'd be done with them? Like if you, like this is the most sociopathic thing I think individually that I can imagine one person doing. We also know, drawing on the hurricane map is the craziest thing, the most cringeworthy and embarrassing thing. How does he do all of these? I don't understand how he makes time for all of it. I want to add a little bit more terrible though.
Yeah, go.
Sorry, what
yeah.
were you gonna say?
No, do it.
Okay, here's a little bit more terrible. Okay, so remember your timeline. On the 26th, he finds out that he has tested positive for COVID. Oh, I just realized there's another awful thing I can throw onto this. So this is according to New York Times reporter Michael Shear. We don't have a graphic for it. Hours after he received the call from Meadows informing him of a positive test, Trump came to the back of Air Force One without a mask and talked with reporters for about 10 minutes. I was wearing a mask, but still got COVID, testing positive several days later. He went on an airplane to a group of journalists without a mask. He had just found out he tested positive for COVID, and he knowingly and willingly exposed them to COVID. But that wasn't even the awful thing that I was gonna mention. 3 days later, he has the debate. And you might recall, remember, this is a guy who knows he has COVID, who just rigged the system so he wouldn't be tested on the debate stage. And here is what he said on that debate stage.
Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
So we played that video, when we found out that he had COVID, and we thought it was sort of ironic that he's mocking another elderly man for being scared of getting COVID, and then he got COVID. But now he had it and knew he had it when he's mocking Biden for wanting to wear a mask. He's in the process of exposing a person to a potentially deadly virus while mocking the other person for precautions against spreading a potentially deadly virus. Has there ever been a sociopath on the level of Donald Trump?
Yeah, you know what? You can't keep track of the levels of insanity and horrific actions from him. So yeah, are people still gonna follow him? Are you still gonna go, this is a good guy? Are you still gonna say he had any kind of any inkling of a thought to look after other people? If you think that he would do this to people that are around him, from reporters to staff members to, the people that actually help him be who he was as a president, doesn't care, breathe on them, it doesn't matter. So what do you think he cares about you in Florida? What do you think he cares about whole James in Idaho? He doesn't care. Why would you think he would have any kind of response to this that actually protects the country when he won't even protect the people that are closest to him? He doesn't care. He does not care. And that was very illustrative in the way that he handled the entire COVID pandemic. As we've already seen, and as he's denied, oh yeah, I know, I wasn't covering it up. He wasn't covering it up. Your track record shows you cover it up. Your track record shows you lie about it. Your track record shows that you will openly and knowingly breathe on people knowing what you've got. We know your track record.
The official GOP Twitter account 1 hour ago tweeted, "Life is precious. Republicans will always stand for the sanctity of life." You follow a guy who went in a room with a bunch of people, families of veterans, and he tried to give them COVID. Get the F out of here with your "we're pro-life" nonsense. They tweeted that seemingly directly in response to these stories coming out.
They're also pro-military too, John.
Oh, totally pro-military. Oh no, super national defense. They just want to get people who've lost their kids in foreign wars sick and potentially die from COVID. Anyway, he says, by the way, it's fake news. Okay,
That's all it takes.
You also said that you arrived late for the debate. So you say it was fake news. Your chief of staff says you did it. 3 different unique sources have confirmed that all of this is true, but you say it's fake news. You don't have a track record on whether you're honest or not for us to check, do you? Anyway, we're gonna go to an early break. This is gonna be a full actual break. Hopefully when we come back from this, we'll have fixed our issues with the videos. So we'll see you in just a few. I'm wearing one of our pieces of merchandise. So the funny thing about the Dragon Squad, and that's what our viewers call themselves. That's the name of the group, but every individual chooses their own name. You might have Cincinnati Dragon. You might have Harry Potter Dragon. We have a Grandma Sunshine Dragon is one of those that I remember. These are people that like to have an element of themselves, their lives, what's significant to them reflected as a part of the community. But the concept of the Dragon Squad is just something I threw away as a joke. I was mocking the Proud Boys, these like right-wing groups that come up with a name for themselves that they think is cool, but it's actually really lame. And I thought, off the top of my head, I can come up with something that's still kind of lame, but much cooler. And so I threw out Dragon Squad and I just moved on with my life. But everybody liked it, and so they kept it going, and so we've embraced it. And I think again, this was during the period of the pandemic. I think it was sort of nice to have a renewed sense of community, a feeling that you're a part of something when everything seems so chaotic. And as a result of that, we've got independent artists online streaming, making beautiful digital art of dragons. We've got, we've released a number of pieces of merchandise that people love sending us photos of them. And then by the way, for me personally, people send me, like you can probably see in the background, like a knitted dragon someone sent me. There's a dragon book they sent me, dragon board games they send me. People have done like custom ironworks, making dragon bottle openers. Like the fans are super invested in diamond art and things like that. And so it's great that they send this stuff. Sometime we're gonna have to set up a wall of all of it. But yeah, it's definitely brought the community a lot closer together. The fact that we were no longer in this big studio, I felt a lot more personally attached to people. It felt very immediate. And I know that I personally needed the connection.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. I think we've gotten all of our tech ducks in a row or whatever. Jayar, once again, thank you for being here for Big News Wednesday. We're about to launch into some more stories, but before we do that, I did want to read a few of your comments since we didn't get our second social break. Spider Weenie sent in a super chat saying, love the show, John and Jayar, much love from the United Kingdom. Thank you for that. Spider Weenie, the new Spider-Man movie is coming out in just a few weeks, so it's almost your time to shine. Mini Morpho just subscribed for the 14th month. Thank you for that, much appreciated. Let's see, here comes the Tony, says not surprising that Trump would launch a bio attack against his opponents. Yeah, totally, and also like Lauren Boebert's whole thing is joking about how Ilhan Omar might be a threat to the people around her, and meanwhile she's bowing down constantly to this guy who's openly spewing deadly germs to everyone who happens to be near him. Drew in Georgia gifted a tier 1 sub. Thank you very much for that. Very nice of you. Ratty Bastard's Mom subscribed for the 4th month. That is the name. Says, yay, 4-month sub. Got my TDR on Twitch and YouTube. Happy to watch and share both streams. Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you so much for that. Okay, Donkey Teeth BTIS says, I'm waiting for the inevitable story about Trump rummaging through the trash for garbage candy. I don't share that in common with him. I just want to be clear about that. Maria Hall DK hit 17 months on Twitch. Thank you. Silver Zen hit 16. Says, hey TYT, can you hold on to this for a bit? I'll be back for it next month. Well, you'll have a different one next month, actually. Hold on. Insomnia Noir says, I can't imagine how traumatic this must be for Representative Omar. She experienced civil war and refugee camps before coming to the States. Someone needs to put a metaphorical boot up. Anyway, I'm not gonna finish that, but I think you know where it's going. Yeah, her whole life, like the early years of her life were unimaginably difficult. Like I can try to imagine, I will come far short of all of what she experienced just trying to live a safe and secure life. And then she gets here, fleeing violence, and gets mocked as a potential terrorist from a woman who supports insurrectionists. Nothing makes any sense. But anyway, why don't we move on to something that kind of makes sense? We're going no more breaks straight through till end of hour. Yeah, I get that. Okay, and with that, let's jump into this. As we potentially launch into another wave with the Omicron variant starting to spread, we don't know how serious it'll be. Let's just admit that up front. We don't know how safe vaccines will make us in the face of it, but we did just experience Thanksgiving. Christmas is coming, people are traveling, and last year that led to a lot of extra COVID. So what might that look like? Well, we know that the now long established partisan gap in COVID cases and deaths is continuing to spread. As of April of this year, the most red and most blue counties in the country began to diverge on vaccination rates. And gee, what do you think that will lead to? Well, the areas that are most strongly for Biden are fully vaccinated at a rate 40% higher than the rate for counties that voted most strongly for Trump. And let's take a look at what that looks like between February, the beginning of the pandemic of last year, and November of this year. Well, the red line is the super Trumpy area. And you can see that they're getting something like 50% more cases. They're getting something like 50% more deaths. And oh, what do you know? They have something like almost 50% less vaccination. It's weird, like, because I know intellectually that those things can't be connected, because I get my news from Tucker Carlson. And he has on experts like Alex Berenson, who I guess must be a doctor or something, saying that vaccinations don't actually work. And I find out from all these people that all you need to do is take ivermectin. So I guess the right wingers are taking less ivermectin because they're getting and dying from COVID at much higher rates. And we've done this story before, by the way. We check in every couple months. It continues. The divergence gets stronger and stronger because these people are not getting vaccinated. And let me show you the partisan split in vaccination. 1/4 of US adults say they haven't gotten a COVID-19 vaccine. But when you break it down in partisan lines, it's a huge gap. So let's see, 60% of those identifying as a Republican haven't. Okay, 1 in 6 Democrats hasn't. That's still too high for the Democrats, but this is just, this is the most logical story that we've ever covered. They're not taking it seriously, so they're getting COVID more and they're dying for it more. And that is amounting to hundreds of extra Republicans dying every single day by choice because they believe the wrong people.
Well, I just want to address real quick the 17%. I think it's the 1 in 6 for many Democrats. I think it may even cross political lines as far as this. There's probably a decent percentage of people who have issues with organizing it, planning, going. People have issues with appointments. I would assume it's one of the reasons people just don't generally go to the doctor. One of the reasons I don't. Maybe. So it's the thing, and I can go to the doctor tomorrow, but many times it's like, but can I squeeze that in? Or maybe someone has a job that they really never get any time off. There's many things and reasons that people may not get it. Now, we see the overarching is just the stupidity or the believing of Tucker Carlson. So even for the people who have issues getting to something or organizational skills or all that stuff, look out for them too, right? So if you have this, the time and capabilities, that's one of the reasons to do it. Or people just with issues with getting vaccines or having pre-existing type of conditions. So just to get that out of the way, because everyone, I don't think should be demonized if they can't, because there's a percentage that can't. So anyways.
Sure, yeah, right.
And that's more reason for people who can to do it, So as we see that when things are broken down on partisan lines like this, it's directly from a messaging to a receiving point of view. There's no way this many groups of people within an ideological mindset just happen to be the ones catching it because they happen to be not doing the things that there's not a groupthink going around. We know the Republican Party has groupthink. We know the Democratic Party, to a degree, has groupthink as well, but to a lesser degree. That's why you have so much more infighting. You have the progressive wing versus the central wing. You have all that happening more. And so you'll get those fringes, but it won't be based off of stupidity. It'll be based off of different ways that we can see and possibly approach this. So I just want to point out that there's those things when it comes to at least protecting others and just getting it. But that goes out the window too when it comes to Republican thing.
You're 100% right. And look, I will just quickly say, it sometimes bothers me. Like we try to do our best. You've been working for TRT way longer than I have. I've been working here for going on near 10 years. And we try to get people to be reasonable and rational, to care about their fellow man, to believe the government has an obligation to do better, to believe that there is a better world that we can try to achieve. And in policy terms, much of what we push for hasn't happened. And that really bothers me, that people are still so irrational, more so than they were when I started this seemingly, that we haven't gotten a progressive president and all that. Those failures bother me so much. But if I knew that I was actively every day encouraging people to throw their lives away, I don't understand what it would take to make me okay with that. And yet, I look, to be fair, I haven't been in their homes. I assume they're very nice. And I assume they have a very, very nice cars and all of that. So I don't know if that makes Tucker Carlson and Dave Rubin and the others feel better about what they're doing. I guess the leather must be very plush.
Yeah,
anyway, really fast.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, continue.
No, because there's a small stat, because you point out how much worse things are than they were before. Just from last year, last December, there's a story I saw this morning. So in the Omaha area, there's 57 people on ventilators as of yesterday. There was 56 on ventilators December 7th of 20. So about a year ago, one fewer people, and there's a new record now because 56 was the tops. Last December, there was no vaccine available.
Yeah.
This year, there's one more on a ventilator. Of course, their capacity, like we've been seeing, but there's a vaccine available. So when we're talking trends, that's a really bad trend. When you got more people that are on ventilators this year versus people that when you didn't have access to doing something, we're on a bad trajectory.
Insane. Super fast, I want to let you know about this. 4 states, Iowa, Tennessee, Florida, and Kansas, have changed their rules on unemployment. You know, because like people are losing their jobs, they want to make sure that they get unemployment benefits. But wait, specifically to include people who've been terminated or who have chosen to leave their jobs because of vaccine mandates. Isn't that amazing? Wow. This is a political movement that all last year, like let's go to these headlines. July 2020, GOP relief plan slashes unemployment benefits by 43% for average workers. 10 Senate Republicans back bill ending the $300 a week unemployment benefits by June. They spent like a year and a half telling you, you shouldn't get any aid, you're being lazy, go back to, vaccine mandates, well, here's some cash. Let's get some cash on you. Yeah, this isn't a partisan thing though. They finally found an unemployed worker that they give a damn about, and it's someone who chose not to continue to work because they didn't want to get a vaccine. Anyway, with that, we do have to jump into our last story of the hour because it is a doozy. So let's get ready for that. Dr. Oz is running for office for Senate in Pennsylvania. Now, this story, there's a lot of surprising bits in this. So first of all, that he's running in Pennsylvania when he doesn't live there. It's not a state that he lives in. But Dr. Oz, he's the celebrity physician who you probably years ago saw on TV, and he was telling you to like eat a bean for diabetes or something. I don't know. I didn't watch much of it, but yeah, he was popular for a long time because he was on Oprah. So why not run as a Republican for Senate eventually? I mean, they lost Sean Parnell, Jayar, the guy who allegedly choked his wife, ordered her out of a car so she'd go get an abortion, and just lost custody of his kids. So they needed like a serious safe bet, and I think they've found it in Dr. Oz. We're gonna give you some of his past medical, because that's his whole thing, is that he's a doctor. We're gonna give you some of his medical advice, but what do you think about this candidacy?
I would love to go back and ask myself, so what do you think about in 2021 when Dr. Oz is running for office after Donald Trump just lost and after a worldwide pandemic just hit that Donald Trump didn't do anything about, and many hundreds of thousands of Americans died and millions across the world? I would go, Oh man, I moved a long time ago when this started happening, but it's weird because we're right. We're just sitting in this and we're watching Dr. Oz run for office in a state he doesn't live in, and we're just like moving along to the next, and it's just normal because it is now. It's not abnormal. It is normal now.
It's just like just have a celebrity. Just no, Dr. Oz. I've heard that name. Look, what is it next? Dr. Doolittle, Dr. Doom, just anybody who happened to be on TV and like, well, it is a public health crisis, so I suppose we should have a doctor. Even if that doctor, for instance, you know what? Let's jump right into this video. Here is what he had to say early on in the pandemic about COVID.
Oftentimes they think they have coronavirus because they're so anxious about it. So every small little symptom, they don't quite smell as well this morning as they did yesterday. They think they have it. They have a little cough, a little bellyache. And again, I don't want to downplay these issues because they may actually have coronavirus because people have very mild symptoms often. But the panic attack is devastating and it is a physical problem. It's not just in your head, your whole body, the rapid palpitations, the sweating, the feeling that the world is closing in around you. And these symptoms can cause all kinds of detrimental effects, which is why I think a lot of doctors now are feeling that the worry and the panic about coronavirus is going to be worse than the actual coronavirus for them.
Yeah, I don't think so, though. I think probably not. Now, look, that was only a couple weeks into the lockdown. That was in late March of last year. But his whole thing is that he's a doctor and he's supposed to get this better than us. And he was going on Fox to say, well, you're panicking about this. And that at the end of the day is the true pandemic. Is you panicking? Well, no, it wasn't. So he's awful on this main issue. I've now added, thanks to the chat, Dr. Dre and Dr. Evil are doctors I would support before him. Jayar, is there any chance? Just he's got a big name. He's a wealthy guy. He's a known grifter. He's been mocked for a long time, rightfully so, for his grift and everything. But what do you think his odds are?
Pretty good. Hey, there's no more bad odds for insane people. Look who we talk about nearly all the time. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert and Gates and Jim Jordan. All those guys are in office. They're in office. So, I mean, honestly, if I was advising Dr. Oz, I'd be like, you look much better than the rest of them. You should better get in on this. And by the way, if we're talking about panic attacks, my last quick thought. So we're concerned about panic attacks over people worrying about COVID. Are we concerned about people's panic attacks over their rent and their mortgage that they're losing their house over, or their jobs that they lost, or their kids getting sick, or lack of health care? Are we worried about people's panic attacks when they worry about those things that we're stripping them of? No, we don't care about that then, because it's not politically expedient for them.
Yeah,
panic attacks.
That is a great point. By the way, in April 2020, he said that opening schools may only cost us 2 to 3% in terms of total mortality. What are you talking about? Only 2 to 3% of the population? Jesus. Okay, Dr. Seuss, we're adding him. Let's see, we got any other doctors? You know what? Let's go with the Wizard of Oz. I would actually support him over this. Do not let this guy get into office. Do we have some kind of expectations? Anyway, we got to take a short break, but we got more. We'll see you on the other side of this. Welcome back, everyone, to what remains of this edition of Big News Wednesday. I appreciate all of you in the chat for suggesting doctors. Some of these are really good. And a lot of people are like having a debate about why I don't watch Doctor Who. It's one of those things that seems hard to get into. Everybody says there's like a lot of different doctors. When do you start watching? It just seems complicated. But I do think that next Monday, our top 10 list will be top 10 doctors we'd support for Senate before Dr. Oz. And I think we already have more than enough at this point. So that should be fun, look forward to that. Before we jump back into our stories, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. Chaplain Fred with a super chat saying, John, I ran into an anti-mask cashier at Big Lots store in my city in Sylmar. She said she can't breathe with it and vaccine is poison. Manager cannot discipline her per corporate policy to avoid issues. I would probably just avoid that particular person. That sucks. Let's see, non-human humanist says Switzerland and Germany special vaccination centers, very efficient workflow. Germany closed their Swiss walk-in, no appointment needed. Yeah, that's how it should be. Tracy Zucker says, greetings from Penn State. PA desperately needs Fetterman to replace Toomey in 2022, not Dr. Oz. Is he a doctor though? You didn't say that. Debbie says, Rand Paul is a doctor. You see how well he handled COVID. That's a good point. Virginia Thomas says, Dr. J, at least he was an awesome basketball player. That's true. There's gotta be some applications of court vision to politics. I don't know. Anyway, over in the Twitch, Ori 881 Bariqua Dragon hit 13 months. Thank you for that. The guy called Keith hit 12, says what a year. That's true. Art G Jr. hit 9 months. Thank you. Mini Morpho again, thank you for the 14. Dragon Martinez hit 6 months, says, can you give my kids James and Yuna Lava Dragon a shout out for getting their vaccine? Consider yourself seeing kids and thank you for being a part of the solution. I appreciate that. Irish, oh Jesus Christ. Anyway, okay, with that, let's Dr. Mundo from Lowell. Oh, that's a good point, I might have to include him. Anyway, with that, why don't we jump into some more news with this video.
And today, America is destroying family life. How? Feminism and sexual liberation theories above all, and conservatives have been complicit in this too. A genuinely national conservatism will have to be bolder and better. And I'm going to limit myself to discussing the political and personal evils that flow from feminism. Our culture is steeped with feminism. It teaches young boys and girls that they are motivated by much the same things. Young men must be respectable and responsible to inspire young women to be secure with feminine goals of homemaking and having children. But the problem is much deeper than all of this. Male achievement in our country is not celebrated, though males continue to be among the highest achievers. In fact, we go out of our way to stop celebrating it. Our feminist culture leads us to want less male achievement. Their excellence, after all, creates inequities. That's a shame. That denial of reality has to stop. Every effort must be made not to recruit women into engineering, but rather to recruit and demand more of men who become engineers. Ditto for med school and the law and every trade.
So I was gonna say that's not a rando. It is a rando, but in addition to being a rando, that individual right there, Scott Yenner, is also a political science professor at one of Idaho's top universities. And there he's at this conservatism conference just saying, I am terrified at the prospect of women competing in the same field as me or other men. And I think we need to get them out of here, send them back to the kitchens, because if we leave them here, we have no chance. And it makes sense. You can watch the guy speak. If I were him, I would be terrified of any competition from women as well. I'd be terrified of women in a variety of different ways. And I would want them to be shielded from seeing or listening to me. And so he apparently has gotten this far in his life with that philosophy. Jayar, what do you think?
He was almost laughing. It was really weird. He doesn't believe this BS, does he? There's no way. Get out of here.
Professor saying it on camera. He's got to believe it to some extent.
Because it happened like what, a few months ago, I think. So like it's resurfacing. No one had seen this yet, and now he's making news on it. Because I mean, I'm not sure he wasn't promoting this because you think he's a chair or he's on the board of this group that had this event. So he's or maybe he's not well enough known to be promoting it and us seeing it. Either way it goes, these are your men. Are these your champions, fellow men? Are these the guys that are the manly men, the men that we're getting away from? Are these the men that Josh Hawley wants us to hearken back to? The ones that are afraid of women? You're afraid of competition? There's nothing but highlight just how little competition people in power throughout our history have had. That they've placed themselves in power, they've placed people like themselves in power, and they've circled the wagons around this group of people. When that gets cracked, when your circle of privilege gets cracked slightly, it's, oh my God, I can't believe they're trying to take us out. They don't appreciate us. They never even thank us for our accomplishments. Your accomplishments were given to you, and then you proceeded to do things with zero competition to do it. How much of a badass manly man are you? And you fighting over whether or not someone has an opportunity in America. Come on, man. This is crazy.
It's just pathetic. Don't follow. There is a war on men, and it is being waged by weak men like this. Don't follow this guy. Don't follow Joe Rogan. They will make you as pathetic as they are because they are terrified constantly. They're terrified of women. They're terrified of people unlike them. They're terrified of what everyone thinks about them constantly. That guy just reeks of weakness. That's all it is. And unfortunately, despite how weak he is, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have some power. After all, he's 80. So back when he was coming up through the system and getting into tenure and all of that, there was less competition because women, non-white individuals were largely barred from competing in the programs that he was learning in and then eventually getting jobs in. And as is pointed out by one of his students, Emily Walton, a Boise State MBA student, she says he has power. He has power to issue a grade. It's disgusting. He needs to come into the current century, but it doesn't sound like he will. Yeah, so this guy says we need less women in engineering and these sorts of things. Well, he's in political science. So I was a political science major. I started off as an engineer. I ended up as a political science major. Maybe he should take his own advice and try harder so he could become an engineer. But anyway, so does he just think that about engineering and medicine? Or does he think that maybe women are getting uppity in political science as well? And he needs to take them down a peg. He can fail them if he wants to. He can freely do that. He has that power. Are we comfortable with him having that power?
Well, again, the people that agree with him that are generally in power would of course be comfortable with him having that power. And that's who he's talking to. That's who he's making sure they understand where he's coming from, that he's one of the manly men that are willing to do this. Adrienne Lawrence, as everyone knows here, she said, or someone tweeted, I can't remember, this is like a few months ago. And it was so obvious. All these men that are afraid of women taking over and they want to eliminate your life and eliminate your worth in the world by not having children anymore. So she said the reason these kinds of men are so wrapped up in this is because for the first time, they have to be appealing to women. Before, if women didn't have any power, rights, job, anything, they had to depend on you. So it didn't matter if you're ugly, if you're an a-hole, if you treat her like garbage, if you beat her, all that stuff. It didn't matter because she needs you, because she's a subordinate. When she's on your same level, when she can get a better job than you, when she can say whatever she wants and do whatever she wants, now you have to want her to like you rather than need you. And being liked and bettering yourself is something these type of folks just have no interest in doing.
Oh, look at Jayar over here, a guy who is seemingly perfectly comfortable being in the marketplace of relationships of equals coming together. If you were that guy, would you want that world to exist? Would you want to have to compete on an even playing field? No, you'd be running for the hills too. Anyway, he had more stuff to say. Let's go briefly to the second video of him.
As Americans in 2021, the so-called independent and empowered woman has become one of our most sacred values. But what is she independent of? In what way is she truly empowered? What a feminist means by that is this woman is independent of the family. She is empowered because her identity is career-based. Are we even allowed to ask if it's worked out for her? Sure, the weakening of the family has been good for some. But for others, it has brought addiction, suicide, misery, crime, pain, and purposelessness. Many polls show that women get unhappier with advances of feminism. And that comes out in our tragically high rates of medication among young girls. And what do feminists do? They deflect blame and encourage women to be angry, to be meddlesome and quarrelsome.
Scott Yenner, please keep talking because you are really helping to prove our point here. Yeah. Oh, by the way, small note: none of the things he's saying are actually what feminists think. What they espouse. He either is too dishonest to speak honestly about the things he disagrees with, or he's too stupid to actually know what any of these concepts are. When he was talking about inequity, saying that they want less male achievement, that's not at all what arguments about equity are about. So this guy is a professor and he is too stupid, too ignorant to actually hold that position. But keep talking, keep putting up the videos. I think that's really gonna help your case.
If you haven't noticed, guys like this guy, and I think we did a story, we're gonna do it today about this. There's a British official that's railing on how men, he said the same thing that Josh Hawley said. So it goes across the pond. The thing is so this is their approach. And they're making these arguments. They're arguing with themselves in the mirror. These strawmen that they're building up and beating down are the weakest arguments. Because you know what the feminists say. You're telling me what feminists say? You're telling me what women feel? You're telling me why women are on prescription drugs? Are men on prescription drugs? Or just no men on prescription
apparently
drugs?
not.
It's just women. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why. How come you have the answers, the questions and the answers to everything that you're saying? You're just not gonna talk to anyone that's actually in that arena. You're just gonna tell everyone else what they think and what they do and what they feel. It's pretty transparent.
Maybe they will get into some of the questions you just had when he appears on Bill Maher later this week for a softball interview. Anyway, with that, let's jump into our next story because we are running low on time. Not that many months ago, Texas was in the grip of a terrible blackout during the winter months, and many people lost their lives. Well, we're approaching winter once again, and what do you know? After that experience and months to do something about it, they are seemingly no better equipped to deal with a winter and might experience power loss like they experienced in the last winter. Kurt Morgan said, this is the CEO of Vistra Corp, a major power supplier in Texas, says if another major freeze hits Texas this winter, the same thing could happen. So at least one corporation is saying no. Nothing really has happened, which is great. Energy experts say Texas's grid remains vulnerable, largely because newly written regulations allowed too much wiggle room for companies. We're gonna show you how much wiggling can go on in that. But I wanna remind you that this is consequential. 210 people at least were killed directly or indirectly during those power outages. Some estimates put it as high as 702 deaths. And they cared enough to go on Fox News a bit and talk about how it's the damn libs' fault and the Green New Deal, but not enough apparently to actually do anything to stop it from happening again. Greg Abbott had initially blamed the outages on frozen wind turbines and solar panels, which was nonsensical because first of all, they weren't hampered in the same way as natural gas and don't make up nearly as big a percentage as the electricity generation in Texas. So natural gas ended up being the big issue. So that's a problem that you can fix. They chose not to. Also, it was a demonstration of the fact that back in 2002, when they isolated their power grid from the two major national grids, that could cause problems because once their power went down, it was very difficult for them to import power from those power grids. So they wanted to do their thing where they avoid the federal government, they deregulate everything. And a few hundred people every winter or so might have to die. But are they gonna actually own up to those issues? No, they're not. And so they had this Texas Railroad Commission put together this plan that was supposed to lead to better weatherization so that they're protected against this. To opt out of this new regulation, companies need to pay $150. So they could pay, potentially millions that might save lives, or they could just pay $150. Which do you think they're gonna do as we race towards this next winter? It's bad.
So this is where we're at. It was $150, John, to opt out.
$150, petty cash.
So do you think any of the laws, anyone else in the country, any other normal people can opt out of a law by paying $150? Like, oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I decided not to follow the law. I'm just gonna give you $150 here. Laws that, by the way, were made to help protect people. So let me run this red light. Hey, officer, I'm sorry, Officer Jones. Yeah, here's $150. Can you just let me go? Can you opt out of laws with $150? Can you do that? And if you offer that, would you get arrested? I mean, maybe you find a crooked cop possibly, but if you're a corporation or if you're connected to powerful people in a state like this, you can do whatever you want. By the way, Texas is a state who just pushed this anti-choice law because they're looking to protect life. You said hundreds of people die every year from this, and probably even more when the grid goes out. Do you care about those hundreds of people every year? What's going on with the quality of life in Texas? Are they killing off the wrong people? Are they killing off minorities? You know, they like to say abortion is one of those policies that Democrats invented so they can kill off the black folks. Are they killing off black folks here? Are people in the underserved communities getting killed more by these types of failures because $150 opt-outs? How much do you care about human life? Come on, bro.
I don't know why you're asking these questions. I showed you what the GOP tweeted. All life is precious, except in practice. Oh, by the way, I hate when we get a fact wrong on the show. So if we could go back to that last graphic, to be fair and specific, the price to opt out is not to exceed $150. So it might be much lower, honestly. Like it's not necessarily even $150. So I apologize. I led you astray. I was fake news right there. It might be $100. Maybe it's $70. Ask yourself this question. Are you allowed to do your bounty hunting thing and sue these companies for $10,000 if they don't weatherize? Oh no, that's just for women exercising their reproductive freedoms. You know, important stuff. By the way, the Railroad Commission was asked and said it didn't know how many natural gas companies are actually prepared for winter. An agency spokesperson said ERCOT's, that's the organization that manages all this in Texas, would have this information, but they didn't. They declined to comment too. So there's like a don't ask, don't tell situation going on with weatherization. I guarantee this: the people in charge of the Railroad Commission and ERCOT, the elected Republicans, none of them are at risk of losing their power if it comes to that. And if they do, I'm sure they can easily hop on a plane with Ted Cruz and go to Cancun or whatever.
Yeah, it's the way it works. Hey, if you got it, you can live. If you don't, F you. America.
Yeah. Okay, let me read a couple of comments before we jump into our last story. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, tech ducks, then that is what we will call the TDR tech people from now. Behind every successful dragon is a duck. You know why ducks are successful? Because ducks fly together. I learned that as a kid. Anyway, Derlook says, I'd vote for Doctor Who anytime. Well, that's an easy one. Danny says, Johnny, this is going to be random, but you have one of the best sign-offs ever. Hope you and Jayar have an awesome Wednesday. P.S. Is there any way we can get a Jayar, John, Brett Friday combo, please? We've never done I don't think we've ever done a 3-person TDR, but we'll look into it. And thank you for that. That's very nice of you. Libby Faye says, Idaho is basically Texas that slipped under the radar, except more races. The KKK was big here. Also, I love you guys so much. Thank you, Libby Faye. I don't know if Libby's from Idaho, but either way, hello to Idaho as well. Okay, more members. Rhiannon, you give a tier 1 member. Jessica Span as well, thank you. Frank Scanlon hit tier 1 as well. And Kathleen Perkins at tier 2, thank you for that. Anna Keaton hit the 2nd month at tier 1, says, I finally noticed this free message thing. FYI, the Supreme Court is looking at the abortion law today. I'm sure that's what the GOP message is for. That's also entirely true. We will be talking about that tomorrow on the show once we know a little bit of what happened during today's testimony. Daedalus finally hit 5 months and says, happy December, Dragon Squad. John, are you hyped for the Bungie 30th anniversary and new Destiny 2 content? And overall, about their anniversary, no, they've got lots of issues. For Destiny 2, maybe. That's sort of the game that I'm playing right now, but I really haven't had any time for any games for like a month and a half. But we'll see. I'll inevitably play a little bit of it and see if I can get that hard light catalyst to drop. Anyway, with that, you ready for our last story? Oh my God, we only have minutes. We should probably jump into it. Some QAnon followers are starting to question this whole thing. It only took like 5 years. One, in fact, wrote an open letter to Donald Trump expressing some of his frustrations with the conspiracy theory. This is Donnie Warren's letter. It was posted on a Telegram channel of QAnon adherent Ron Watkins, who I believe is who people think was actually Q. So I feel like he could answer a few questions about this, but they're asking Trump. In the letter, Warren complained that Red October, one of the multiple dates on which leading QAnon proponents promised the alleged cabal members would be rounded up and arrested, had not come to pass. So this great storm that's supposed to come constantly and never actually comes. Hey, what's going on with that? You keep saying it's gonna come and it isn't. He said, we were given hints by Q experts that November was to be the month I told a few of my awake friends that either this would be the best Thanksgiving ever or the worst. Guess which one it was. How am I supposed to know? Did you make like yam casserole? Cranberries might have been really good Thanksgiving. I don't. Oh, you're talking about the QAnon thing. So bad? I'm guessing bad. Jayar, do you feel for any of these people that are like slowly starting to be like, hey, none of these are actually coming true?
This is one of those points where you have to try and figure out, do I make fun of these idiots or do I be like, okay, I'm glad you're finally seeing something and maybe you'll start thinking normally? Because you need more normal thinkers in this country. What we found out, which I already knew, was we have way too many people who just don't think. They just move along with whatever can satisfy their moment of emotional support at that moment. So this is just another one of those. They're like, oh my God, Donald Trump is screwing us over. So he writes a letter to Ron Weasley, and he's like, hey, Ron, what's going on? Can you put some kind of spell on us to make sure Trump does what he's gonna do?
Harry. Oh, the poor Weasleys, man. To be fair, they're prone to conspiratorial thinking because of economic anxiety. But anyway, it's a big family, you know? So finally, he says, for months I have anticipated each day with excitement, knowing that I'm watching my president and his crew of patriots take back our country. And I'm sorry, I assume he's crying during this. I am losing that excitement now. It is starting to get very old. I will not be checking Lynn Wood's page or George Michael Flynn's or any others for a good while. I'm already tired of it. And also, my family thinks I'm a nut for believing in all this. Well, that's not new, dude. That's been around for a while.
I can't believe they do this to me. This is the slim glimmer of hope. People are seeing this, and he said, I'm getting tired of it. So again, we just talked about the Texas power grid. If that happens again and people die, they can go, wait, Greg Abbott is an a-hole. They're gonna start realizing if once Trump debacles this whole 24 thing, or then as Marjorie Taylor Greene and that side of the party starts destroying it from within and see how much of a fraud Kevin McCarthy is, they're gonna start going, these guys are all weak and they're fake and they hate us. It's gonna become more and more apparent, and maybe they'll see it.
We'll see. And look, if to the person, you know, I feel bad for you. I feel a little bit bad, but like the clues have been there. And now you're years later, you're sending a letter to Trump and Putin and Xi Jinping and JFK Jr. who died decades ago. Like, wake up faster, man. You're taking a long time. I get it. I'm groggy after naps too, but like you got to wake up way faster than
that's why they've weaponized the word woke. If you wake up, that's a bad thing. If you realize that's a bad thing, if you think that's a bad thing, you notice everything that's positive with realization of your world around you is a negative thing. Barack Obama was a smart guy. He thinks he's better than you. He thinks you're woke. Look at the woke army waking up and saying things that make sense, dummies. Like it's just crazy. It's upside down.
I agree. Anyway, well, we'll see if more start to awaken. Final super chat before we close. Laura Estrada says, Jayar, you need your own show. You are a huge part of why we love TYT. Well, look, he's been pushing for it for a long time, but every time I see that talk start to spread, I tamp it down, okay? I need him for Big News Wednesday, so shut up, Laura.
Hey, this is a standard on Wednesdays. I'm not sure if this can ever be changed.
That's a good point. Chub Toad, I noticed, thank you. Anyway, Jayar, thank you as always for being here for Big News Wednesday. We really do appreciate it.
Love it, good times. Good to see you guys.
We're gonna try to get you on Friday with Brett. Anyway, okay, for those of you watching at home, Indisputable is coming up next. Jackson White is gonna be on, very exciting. I'm also gonna be joining Anna Kasparian for the second hour of the Young Turks later on today, so you're not gonna wanna miss that. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.